There are some classic Doctor Who stories that I do have to watch more than once. Like I'll watch them once and think, okay, that was all right. But then when I watch them the second time, I'll get a much better appreciation for them. Stories like The Tenth Planet, The Invasion, The War Games, and Planet of the Spiders are stories that I have had to watch for a second time before I've truly appreciated them. And this time was another case. Until I can get another set of classic Doctor Who stories to watch, there was one story that I knew I wanted to just rewatch because the first time I watched it through, everyone said it was one of the great Doctor Who stories, but I didn't necessarily get it. And that was The Robots of Death, the fifth serial of Doctor Who's 14th series, first broadcast in four parts from the 29th of January to the 19th of February 1977. Now, when I watched this one through for the first time, I did a review of it, I was like, well, this is alright, but I don't necessarily get it. But then people, when I posted on social media about it, people were like, why didn't you get this one? This is one of the greats. I mean, it's like a murder mystery with robots. I was just like, really? I don't necessarily get it. But after sitting down and watching it for a second time, I think I do finally get why people consider this one of the greats. The Fourth Doctor, played once again by Tom Baker, and his companion Leela, played by Louise Jameson, arrive on essentially a harvester machine on a planet that is mining for minerals. But it turns out they've shown up at precisely the wrong time, as the ship is currently in the middle of a murder mystery. Several members of their crew are showing up dead. So you've got a crew that consists of many different people, including the leader, Yuvanov, played by Russell Hunter, the captain, Toos, played by Pamela Salem, Poole, played by David Collins, Borg, Brian Croucher, Zilda, Tanya Rogers, Chubb, Rob Edwards, Cass, played by Tariq Yunis, and Dask, played by David Bailey. And most of the rest of their crew is done with Vok robots, to which there are, I think, three different classes of robots. There's Duns, Vox, and Super Vox, by what I understand. Now, and the two main robots that really you do need to take focus on are SV7, played by Miles Fothergill, and a black robot known as D84, played by Gregory DePaulme. And various members of the crew keep showing up dead, seemingly strangled. And the crew at first dismissed that it could have been the robots because first thing we know about robots is that they can't harm humans. Asimov's first law of robotics. A robot cannot harm a human or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Now, I slightly prefer Red Dwarf's take on that. They managed to do a spin that it's like, no robot can harm a human or allow a human being to come to harm. Not quite. One day you will all die. If we do nothing, then we are in breach of the first law. So we will upload your body into your minds into new robots, prevent your deaths, and adhere to the first law. But anyway, back to the robots of death. It's believed that the robots can't harm humans until the doctor points out, well, can't they have been reprogrammed in order to do so? And at first they are, but eventually he does manage to bring it round to their way of thinking. And when people were saying this was like a murder mystery with robots, first time around I didn't get that, but then upon watching it through and paying attention, I was like, oh yeah, I can see how this would work. And right, spoiler alert if you don't want to know who the ultimate bad guy is. They do have suspicions, like you suspect Yuvanov as he seems a bit full of himself. You suspect others like Cass, but it's eventually revealed that Dask is actually an insane scientist named Taran Capel. And he was a scientist who was seemingly brought up by robots, and thus seems to believe that they are superior to humans. And throughout the story, they're shown a disc that is supposed to be attached to robots to show that they're defective or that they're broken, and it's been put on the murdered bodies. And they eventually do manage to figure out that it's robots who did it, and that the robots aren't quite what they seem, especially when Toos tries to call it for help, and one of the robots answers like, "Is that you, Captain Toos?" Just like, well, hang on, no, no, the Doctor must have been right. They obviously must be the murderers. I mean, why would they ask? They would clearly know it was me. They're programmed to know my voice command. And I will admit, there are two things that I do actually think are pretty good iconic moments. One of which I do remember is before the story really starts, Tom Baker's explanation to Leela about exactly how the TARDIS dimensions work. Like, he shows her two boxes, one bigger than the other. It's like, which box is bigger? Well, that one, surely. Like, okay, moves, places it on the center console, brings the other box forward. Now, which one's bigger? That one there on the console. I bet it looks smaller. Well, yeah, but it's further away. What if you could? But if you could keep it that far away from that box, then that box could fit inside this one. I don't entirely understand, but yeah, I do love that, and that is an iconic scene for the Fourth Doctor and for Leela. Now, in term, I think there's only one small gripe out of this episode, and you know what? It's sci-fi. We can't always be expected to adhere to the laws of science for science fiction, but the ultimate way they have to defeat Taran Capel is the Doctor has Leela hide inside a cupboard with a helium tank, and then when Taran Capel enters the room, she should unleash the tank, and it will slowly unleash helium into the room. The helium will make its voice sound funny, like helium always does, and eventually the robots will attack him because they've been ordered to kill all humans, and if he has a higher voice, they'll think he's human. Now, I think the main problem I have about this is that what we do know that a little bit of helium to give your voice the high funny trick is usually fine. Too much helium can actually be bad for you. I mean, it can actually kill you in high enough doses. So, I think I had the same gripe when The Big Bang Theory tried a similar joke in an episode where Kripke unleashes helium into Sheldon's office. To which I do think that by the end, when Tam Capel has the high voice and so does Leela, I feel like in any normal circumstances she would be dead by this time. But oh, I'm nitpicking. They also discover that the D-84 robot, which is black, while all the others are either green or gold, is actually a good robot and is actually trying to find. And they do actually manage to do some quite good stuff with it. While they believe at first it's a robot that can't talk, it eventually reveals it can. And they do actually manage to work together with this in some quite good detective scenes. Now, do I ultimately think this is one of the great Doctor Who stories? Well, I definitely like it more than I did the last time. I mean, there are certain other stories I do think would probably rank above it, but and others that I think I would enjoy more just because they're a little bit more silly. But you know what? On second viewing, I think the Robot of Death deserves a lot more credit than I previously gave it. So people kept saying this is one of the great stories, and upon second viewing, I definitely like it a lot more. Maybe if I watch it again in another year or so, I might enjoy it even more now. But there you go. My quick re-review of the Robots of Death, and you know what? I definitely give it a better grade than I did the last time. The last time I think I placed it about a D. This time I think it's up to a B now. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I think. If you still think I missed anything about the Robots of Death that I really should have seen, then yeah, you know what? Comment down below. It'd be nice to hear. Anyway, until next time, see ya.